What's going on, Duck Nation, College Football Nation? This is UODuckBros, and he's finally back on the scene after the whole housewarming party thing was going on.
Which went quite well.
Yeah.
Which went quite well.
By the way, this is totally unrelated to Oregon football, but Auburn is crapping the bed right now, which is hilarious, because any Oregon fan can appreciate that.
Post Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Post national championship, still hungover Oregon fans.
Yeah.
There's a few of them out there, including myself. I'm still a little salty when I think about it.
Yeah. Anyways, back to regular things.
Go Wildcats for another 30 minutes.
Yeah. So, looking back at the Wyoming game in all of its partially upsetting splendor that it had, they got the win.
They did get the win.
It didn't, looking at the scoreboard, it didn't look like Oregon had a problem with it, minus the being down 7-0 after one quarter, which was really weird to me. But there were good things, and there were not so good things.
Yeah, and I didn't really get to see the whole entire thing again because I had my housewarming party, but from what I could tell, it just, Oregon traditionally, for whatever reason, starts really slow. They never really get into a rhythm, and even in the first half, they never really seem to hit their stride until the second half. It just seems like they kind of feel everything out for the first half, and then they'll still score a couple touchdowns, but really it's like nothing really ratchets up and gets tighter and looks better until the second half. And it was, obviously there was nothing to panic about because we ended up winning the game by a lot, but it's one of those things where the score sometimes isn't indicative of the actual
what it
was, because when you look at the nuances of the game, we gave up a ton of yards again, and we shouldn't have.
And just the fact that they gave up as many rushing yards as they did was just so weird.
Especially when you have a team coming off of a Michigan State win. Well, really, in the second half, you didn't give them anything. They scored 3 points in the entire second half.
It's the hangover thing, and I know that you try not to leave it up to that, but that's pretty much what it was. It was almost like it's like the same scenario that USC ran into with Boston College, but obviously it didn't affect them that bad because it's just you feel like after you beat a team like that now you kind of get a little bit of that invincibility complex. You're like, this is going to be absolutely nothing. But again, it's good that these types of things are happening right now because there's a lot of young players on the team, and I think that having the frustration of not being able to stop teams like this sometimes is a good learning tool because you learn that you're human. You learn that you can't do those kinds of things against better teams, otherwise you're gonna lose the game. So
yeah, and for what it's worth, of course, I'm sure it's just kind of the like you said, the growing pains of being young and learning assignments and reading your keys and knowing where to be and knowing where to go with how to read an offense and how to read a quarterback and where you're staying in your gap and all that stuff. But it's just one of those things where you look for a defensive line that's supposed to be stout. You've got guys that are pretty heavy, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, Alex Balducci, guys that are supposed to be dominating.
At times they are.
It's just the inconsistency. You see the potential and it drives you nuts because you wanna see that play in and play out where they look like a team that finally lives up to the billing of the talent level that you think you see on paper when you get these kids from all these different high schools. They have all the potential, and of course we have good coaching, but I feel like there's just such an emphasis on playing your gap, not necessarily trying to get penetration, and it drives me nuts because I feel like we could get in the backfield and disrupt anything we want to if we really just
do it for
dialed in. But it tells me a lot about how we pretty much have no confidence in our linebackers or necessarily our DBs at times because we keep playing this these soft zone coverages. We don't do a lot of man-to-man bump and run coverage. We don't play a lot of tight coverage, and so it puts a lot more of an emphasis on being able to cover. And when you're not getting a pass rush, it just allows them to pick you apart. And we're playing, teams now going into the next, few games where We'll get into it more in the next
especially when that'll be in the next video with Washington State, where they throw the ball all the time, and so
it's worrisome now. I don't really feel like some of these teams, regardless of what they do, are going to beat us because they don't have
the tools.
They don't have the sustainability, and they don't have the stamina and the defense to stay with us for 4 quarters. But all it takes is going into conference play, where you're really going to be starting to play teams that can put up, better numbers and can keep you from scoring at times. It takes just one game, one injury, one thing. I mean, we've had a bunch of injuries on the offensive line. I don't really think we can sustain much more.
Well, at least Fisher's not going to be hurt he's not going to be out for a sustainable period of time. Like, no. I think it was like a couple of weeks.
But you talk about losing Fisher, who's anchoring that that side of the line there, and then you lost Andre, and you lost Tyler before the season even started, who's your all-American left tackle. And for a team that's going to be competing, or is competing for a national championship and all that stuff, if you continue to take hits on your offensive line, which is worrisome.
At least Tyrell Crosby's doing well.
He is doing pretty well.
That's good. Something that really bothered me though? There were some play calls that Don Pelham made that I was really I don't remember exactly what point of the game it was, but it was like a 3rd down and like fairly short, and he ran like a prevent, and it was so weird.
I know. I heard about it on the radio, and I was wondering,
what are you doing? This is not where you would do that at all.
It really made me, because after the Michigan State game, you're thinking to yourself, oh, okay, well,
this is awesome.
We're in good shape. He's a good coach. He's a good defensive coordinator. He's calling nice plays. And then you get into these games where, against our, the first game, South Dakota. I want to say Arkansas State, but that wasn't the right team.
Same colors.
South Dakota, and then you look now at Wyoming, and then you're wondering, is he saving the rest of the defensive playbook for
conference
play, or is it
maybe just experimenting with stuff?
I don't know what he's doing, but it was I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't want to be like the negative Nancy that just says, oh, we didn't do this and do that. I mean, we won the game, but it's just one of those things where
half of our job as fans is to be critical of stuff.
We want to see.
We like to analyze things.
We want to see Oregon at some point down the road, hopefully soon, starting to be just as good on the defensive side of the ball as we are on the offensive side of the ball, because it's not like we're not getting talent enough to make things happen. I just don't feel like the defense, running a 3-4 hybrid defense, is really. I think if we just ran a different style of defense, I think it would be more effective. But again, I'm not a defensive coordinator, so I won't sit there and say that I could do a better job, because obviously I can't. Otherwise, I'd be there and he wouldn't be. So, but you just wonder at times why they don't do certain things, or why you see other teams doing things that are successful that you're not doing at times in certain situations. And so I guess we'll just have to continue to wait and see going forward where we go with the play calling and how our defense looks, and if our offense can get in sync and play consistent football for 4 quarters. So
yeah, we'll find out.
I don't know. I mean, it was a good win, but sometimes it's just kind of like, well, yeah, we put up 40 some points, but you want to see from the beginning of the game to the end of the game
the same
intensity. It just seems like they take the foot off the pedal, and I don't know if it's because of them just trying to be classy or what, but I would rather us just continue to score, and if they can't stop us, well, oh well.
One thing I did like, and it was kind of subtle, but when they finally took the first team offense off the field and they put in Lockie, they actually allowed him to throw the ball. Like, they didn't do what we were seeing last year, where
they just handed the ball off.
They bring him in, they bring in the second teamers, and they just hand the ball off and run up the middle over and over and over and over. Screen pass to the sideline, and run back up the middle over and over again. And it just, it was nice to see that they actually let the other guys see more of the playbook and allow them to actually do something, because if they're going to have to come in at some point, you'd like them to have more game experience than just running the ball up the middle and doing a screen pass here and there. They let him throw the ball down the field. They were getting, guys running out in space, and Benoit got a touchdown. Lloyd got a touchdown. So all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit there and be like, oh, well, it's just, going into, conference play, it'll be nice to kind of see things.
Now, like everything that we do, we have to convince a human crowd. Like there is no more computer.
No,
it's all human perception now.
So far, we've impressed enough, and hopefully that'll continue. It's just I feel like teams that you're supposed to crush, not just on the scoreboard, but in all phases of the game, you should crush. And I just don't feel like we made a good effort on the defensive side of the ball in those 2 games that didn't involve Michigan State. So
some little trickster slipped us some decaf.
It's something. I don't know if it's just being,
It's part of the hangover syndrome, I think. I think you probably will see that start to happen less now that we're into the real stuff now. So, well, before we ramble on too much, we will leave that one here. So, next video coming up, we're going to be talking about looking forward to Washington State, whom we have beaten
Saturday night football
7 years in a row. So, until then, my friends, this is UODuckBros saying thank you guys for watching, and go Ducks.
Salute.
Yeehaw. Down with Auburn.